Aloha, mahalo. Welcome as we talk about OKO Knife Counter #1. And looking at the attack, we've got a straight knife from our 12 o'clock. So once again, in our green zone. In the front range of our peripheral vision is the green zone. So here we have the knife. You're going to see it down low, and it comes in for a straight, either a jab or for a thrusting knife motion. So first thing we're going to do is this stick on the floor is the line of the attack. What we're going to do is get off of the line of the attack. So if my feet are in pre-position 2, left foot slightly forward, I'm still on the line. I need to step with my left foot and get the majority of my body, minus a little bit of my leg, off the line. I'm stepping to the left corner of an inverted triangle to get off of the line of the attack. Now with my hands, I'm going to do what we call DDCD, deviate, deflect, control, and disarm. So I'm going to strike at the wrist, but I'm also going to strike at the elbow at the same time, deviating the line of the attack and deflecting the range of the weapon. In a second, we're going to control and disarm. Once again, step to the left, deviate, deflect. I'm going to wrap my right hand and mako, the palm of his hand, to restrict the control. We'll get a close-up of this later, but let us step, deviate, deflect, control. Now I'm going to insert what we call a gauge leg. I need to create some room between my opponent and I to allow my right leg to contour up and to kick him. I'm going to step out with my left foot, opening up my hips just slightly, allowing me to kick and decide where to land. Now remember, with this kick, we do what we call up, out, back, and down. I'm here, I'm controlling the weapon. I'm going to lift it up to create room for my kick. I've opened up my hips with the gauge leg. And now up, out, back. Now when I go down, after my kick, I am going to purposely step behind me. Actually on the other side of the line. So for instance, if this stick was my original line, my left foot is here, I've just gauged leg. I've moved the arm out of the way. I want to step across the line to allow me to unwind so that my left knee is now scrunching or pinning my opponent. Once again, from the beginning, left foot steps, deviate, deflect, control. Gauge leg, up, out, back, and down. Now, as I rotate, I didn't want to put him on the ground. I'm going to unwind, so I'm flat-footed. Now I'm going to shimmy. Think of this, for some of you, you've been to Hawaii and you have seen the hula. Think of the wahine using their hips in the hula. We are going to use the shimmy or the hula to off-balance our opponent and allow us to do the armbar takedown. Once again, once I have kicked and crossed the line and stepped, I'm going to shimmy. Along with the shimmy, we are going to row the boat, or row the canoe. So we are going to use that push-pull motion as we did earlier in the system, right? So if I have this stick here, here's my opponent's arm, right? I deviated, deflected. I've now controlled the wrist. Now as I land after the kick, watch what my hips do and my hands do at the same time. I'm going to pull with my right, push with my left to bring him down. I'm going to shimmy to bring him down. Notice as I bring him down as well, I'm going to bring that arm across my leg. We're going to row the canoe, and we're going to put the oar onto my knee. The oar onto my knee. Once again, let's go back from the beginning, using the stick as a weapon. Here's the line of the attack. I'm going to step off the line, deviate, deflect, and now control. Gauge leg, kick. Step down. Notice where the knife is still. As I step down, I'm going to shimmy to bring him down. Now turn around so you can see me. My knee is now pinning him. Here's the knife. Here's the knife. My hand is controlling the wrist. My left hand is going to come up and control the wrist. As I strip the weapon, I'm going to discard the arm and then strike. And if I need to, cross and cover out. Once again, without these training aids in the air, I'm going to step off the line of the attack, deviate, deflect, control, gauge leg, kick, step behind. I'm going to shimmy and row the canoe, strip, and respond. With that, stay tuned as we discuss the concepts and principles. As we talk about the concepts and principles here in OKO Knife Counter number 1. Number 1, we have DDCD, deviate, deflect, control, and disarm. So for instance, this stick is the line of the attack, right? I need to deviate the line. Notice now the line is going away from my head. Just with that small movement, I've moved the line of the attack. Now I'm going to deflect where the knife goes. For instance, if this is the weapon pointed straight at you, I want to deviate it and I want to move the blade away from me as much as I can. I do that in and through controlling it. So in other words, here's the weapon coming in. As my hand comes up, I'm going to grasp the meaty part of the hand. I'm going to grasp the meaty part of the hand to help control the rotation of the blade. Because as we look at the wrist, it's extremely flexible. If I'm holding different grips, my wrist flexion and tension allows different types of strikes. I need to control that in my opponent. I'm going to grab the wrist to prevent movement to the weapon until I can disarm him. That is deviate, deflect, control, and disarm. DDCD. Now with the kick, as we talked about, it's up, out, back, and down. When I do it that way, it allows me to step back and across the line to allow me for that knee pin as my opponent's on the ground. Now we also discussed the shimmy, or putting the hula into what we do. Once again, watch Alohe Sol, or you watch, as you watch Alohe Sol, Alohe Kai, or Kumu Michelle, you watch them in their hips and they do the hula in their lua. And we're going to borrow that. We're going to watch the Wahine do the hula, and we're going to put that into our kaju. Also, one thing that wasn't mentioned in the breakdown is we use something called borrowed balance. So once we have deviated, deflected, and controlled the weapon, as I step out for that gauge leg, I can actually borrow a little bit of my opponent's balance to perform the kick. Just slightly, just a little bit. I'm going to borrow his balance in order to perform the kick. We're also going to see this in knife counter number 2, is borrowed balance. Now we have is called the double tap. So in the base technique, as shown by GGM Groff, we see a single-handed chopping to grabbing motion. What I would personally like to see is that not only does my wrist have range of motion, my elbow has range of motion. And when you combine the two, this becomes a squirrely weapon. So I want to control both the hand and strike the elbow. That is why what we do is called a double tap. As I step back is both the hand and second hand, preventing a redirection of the weapon. Then we also talked about, as we talked about in previous grab and punch counters, we talk about rowing the canoe, right? The push and pull. In this case, since my left hand is flat by the elbow and my right hand has grasped the hand with the knife, I'm going to rotate on the palm of my hand on the top of his arm, covering his elbow. And as I do the shimmy, I'm going to pull with the left and push with the right. It's almost a reverse canoe, much like you would see with the oar or see with other weapons, such as the spear. This motion can be used. And then also what we call rolling the arm. So one thing that you wasn't seen at distance is as I am pulling and pushing, I am going to take the arm from this position and roll it. Notice what that does with my shoulder. I get to a point and I have to adjust with my upper body and shoulder to allow the continued rotation. We're going to roll the arm, exposing the scapula and exposing the ribs for our left knee. Once again, as we've covered with these concepts and principles, DD, CD, deviate, deflect, control, and disarm. We've covered up, out, back, and down with our kicks. We've covered the shimmy or the hula. We've talked about borrowed balance, which is going to show up once again. We've talked about double tap. We've talked about push, pull, or rowing the canoe, and rolling the arm. It's amazing. All of that's in OKO Knife Counter #1? You betcha. With that, stay tuned. Aloha and mahalo for OKO Knife Counter #2.